when there was a few reasons for me to put this band back together, and one of the reasons was the Alpha Male Gorillas. The Alpha Male Gorillas are a relatively local band, and they're nasty. And I was talking to one of the guitarists from that band at the reunion there, and I was telling him how much of a fan of the band that I am, and he was telling me how they don't really do anything anymore. They're not really a band anymore, and this and that, but they just play every now and then. And I told him, I was like, it's not really, when you're that good, it's not really about your bands anymore. It's about the fans, and we want to hear more music. Like, we love your band, we love your music. And he looked at me and he goes, well, I could say the same thing about you. And I was like, you bastard. So I was like, all right, well, I'll think about it. That was Schwinny, right? So then this one guy kept emailing me, don't let the band go, put the band back together, put the band back together. He goes, I play guitar, I have a lot of ideas, I have some really cool ideas. I'm telling you, don't let it go. Let's do this. And he bugged me for quite a while, right? And so after talking to Schwinny from the Alpha Male Gorillas, I said, maybe I should try. So I put the message out, and I got a lot of replies for people that wanted to do it. And I was like, man, that's pretty cool. So we started to set up those auditions, and Jim used to come see me play at 1111 all the time. I didn't even know he was a musician. I just thought he looked like one. And so he sent me a message, and I was like, okay, well, we can audition him. And so I started to set up auditions, and Jim came, and the guitarist that was talking to me, he couldn't make it that night, and so we sat there and we started to play, and Jim was playing a bass line to one of my songs, but it didn't sound like the bass line that Andy used to play, and I was like, man, but it sounds familiar, and apparently Jim didn't get the email that I sent with all the music. He just searched out all the music online, and he found all the versions where I was playing bass. And he learned those bass lines, and I was like, you know what, man? That's awesome. So Jim was a lock, and then Jim introduced me to Jordy, and Jordy, I mean, you hear him play keys, you can't not, he was incredible. So then we started auditioning some drummers, and the next audition that we had set up, it was like the third time that Frank couldn't make it, and I was starting to think like, man, is this guy not going to be reliable? I mean, he's a good portion of the reason why I put this together. And the next day we got the news that Frank had passed away. I never met the guy, and I feel heartbroken. I did meet him. I met him once at Max's on Main, and he was so animate about doing this. So I didn't know what to do, and then I kind of thought about it. I was like, you know what? If we're going to do it, let's do it for Frank. So we put it together for Frank. Frank DeFabio. And then we tried out a few drummers, and then we came along with Steve, and I got to the rehearsal spot, and Steve shows up, and he's like, hey, man. I don't know if you guys had a chance to talk to Steve, but he's very mellow. He's like, hey, man, I'm Steve. And I was like, nice to meet you, Steve. Who's Steve? And he's like, I'm the drummer for today. And he's like, I love cymbals. And I'm like, this guy's awesome. So we brought him in to rehearse, and right? I mean, come on, he's awesome. And then oddly enough, Jim and Steve had played together quite a while ago in another band, 5 years ago, in a band called Detroit. And they were like, well, we know this guitarist that would be perfect for the band. We should try to get him. And I was like, oh, who is he? And they were like, Doriano. And I was like, oh. And I told him he was the first musician I met when I came up here. And then Doriano, actually when we put the original band together, I actually had asked Doriano to play with us, and he was like, oh, I don't know, dude, I don't know. And then we ended up with Tom, and I'm so happy that we have Doriano now to play with us. I mean, God, he adds so much power to the band, and he's just unbelievable. So please, this is the Jason Gisser band. So please give it up for these guys. I'm so happy to be playing with them. They're amazing. So and please give it up for Frank DeFabio, because without him, none of this would have happened. And the Alpha Male Gorillas, because without them, this wouldn't have happened either. So.